Hello, welcome to 21st Century Football. This is a podcast all about celebrating the best of the world's most beautiful game, but only if it happened in the 21st century. This series is all about championing the greatest football players of the last 20 years or so, and our regular panel of guests are going to be chatting about the players' careers, the honours, and of course, some incredible stats. My name's Adam Brown, and joining me today is the wonderful Mr. Will Brazier.
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good, man. Very, very good. I'm very good. And also, if there's a stat to be known, this man will have it sewn up. Statman Dave, how are we? Good.
Good, yeah. 32 games in La Liga in the
2006-7
season. He scored 21 goals. You got to get it out, right?
Here you go. Start as you mean to go on. As I said, it is all about celebrating the iconic players of the 21st century in football. Obviously, there's loads of them. Now, we're going to focus today on one man who is undoubtedly up there. He's undoubtedly one of the greatest, Ronaldinho. So, as always on this podcast, we're going to start off by doing what we need to do and delving into his Wikipedia page, which I will point out, anyone can edit. So, you know, whether or not this will be true.
Okay, so we're getting rid of that liability.
Yeah. Listen,
and then we talk about
Makes it sound like
Paraguay,
you edited it
passports.
Well, no, we'll get into it. Listen, this is what we've got for Ronaldinho, okay? He's a Brazilian former professional footballer and current ambassador for Barcelona. He played mostly as an attacking midfielder, but was also deployed as a winger.
See, I'd question that. I'd say more of a winger than attacker midfielder. But anyway, I'll edit that later on Wikipedia, guys.
Go. It doesn't say he was last edited. Yeah,
unbelievable.
So we'll crack on. Often considered one of the best players of his generation and regarded by many as one of the greatest of all time, Ronaldinho won 2 FIFA World Player of the Year awards and a Ballon d'Or as well. Ronaldinho accumulated numerous other individual awards throughout his career, and he was included in the UEFA Team of the Year and the FIFA World 11 3 times each, which is damn impressive. And he was also named UEFA Club Footballer of the Year for the 2005-2006 season and South American Footballer of the Year in 2013. Now, I do want to add this in as well. In 2004, he was named by Pele in that FIFA 100 list, which crops up a lot, doesn't it? And also, I will say, I'm going to discredit that slightly because El Hadji Diouf appeared in it. The world's greatest living players. In his international career with Brazil, Ronaldinho earned 97 caps, he got 33 goals and represented his country in 2 FIFA World Cups. Now, Dave, I'm going to start with you here, mate. When I say Ronaldinho to you, what is the first thing that springs to mind?
Fun. Excitement.
Fun!
It's not a Tinder profile.
If that was on my Tinder profile, maybe I'd get more matches. But no, Ronaldinho is a player that you enjoy. I think that's the thing. You can just enjoy his skills, his tricks, his touches, his flicks, his goals. He's just a very enjoyable player, and I think a lot of players that came through post-Ronaldinho will fixate on Ronaldinho being their inspiration as a professional footballer. You know, he was pre-Messi Ronaldo era. He was the best player in the world for at least 2 to 3 years. And I think that's the level that you get from it. It's that kind of joyful. It's kind of like how you could describe a Brazilian player. Ronaldinho is that.
Yeah, I mean, would you agree with that, Will? Or do you think that, I mean, he's got an impressive list of individual awards there, but do you think the overriding kind of vibe you get from him is that kind of fun element?
Just sick, isn't he?
Just sick.
Do you know what I mean? It's just so, like, nonchalant in the way, like, he's probably not the best athlete. I don't think anyone could level that at him, but it didn't really matter just because he was so good at what he did on the ball. And I think for my generation, he was just one of the best, he was just absolute. It was like pay-per-view telly to watch him. I've got to sit down. He's on the box now. I didn't have Sky Sports, so it was few and far between. So if it was a little Clive Tilsley on an RTV number, then it was get yourself down, get the snacks in. It's Ronaldinho tonight.
But, you know, do you think there's more to him than just being fun? Obviously, he could deliver in the big moments as well, couldn't he, Dave?
But I think that's, like, if you were talking about Ronaldinho, that's what you get from the flip-flops, the nutmegs. It's like taking football, but kind of taking the mick out of the opponent in a way because he was that good.
Yeah.
His feet were absolutely incredible. The speed of his stepovers, the way that he can just could beat anyone. I think from a physical perspective, he was deceptively quick. As soon as he beat you, you're done. Like, you're out the game. And I think he carried that Barcelona team in. And was kind of the first time that Barcelona really came back onto the map of European football, and he's the start of that. You take his tutelage of Lionel Messi as well. That's not understated. You know, as Messi came through, Ronaldinho was in the side. you could take a lot from Ronaldinho's game in terms of his body feints that Messi does. Whether that was through learning from Ronaldinho or not, you can take a lot from that. The explosive energy that you get from a player like Ronaldinho on the pitch means that you could potentially leave him up the pitch, let the rest of the team defend, and then just hit on the counter-attack with Ronaldinho, and it was an effective strategy. I
mean, obviously, let's say what would you consider to be his best years? What era are we talking here?
Well, definitely 2005, 2006 when they won the European Cup. That was prime Ronaldinho for me. Like around those years, 2005, 2006, where you had the standing ovation at the Bernabeu, where you had the Super European Cup run, and his impact on that side was absolutely massive, carrying the team. And I think that sort of part of football, he and Kaka were the two shining lights of European football, both Brazilian, kind of classic footballers, both of them. And I think that's a level very different, but also both supremely technical, could finish off at either foot. Ronaldinho's known for that, having no backlift as well. Like, that's unbelievable technique from a player that you expect to be explosive in the dribble, can strike a ball from anywhere. Again, it goes back to that word. Ronaldinho, I'd class him as a fun player to watch.
I mean, obviously, early 2000s was probably, like you say, his era, especially around that 2005, 2006 kind of mark. But do you think that, if it wasn't 21st century, say if he was in a position like a Ronaldo or a Messi now, do you think he sometimes gets a little bit overlooked in a way in terms of his actual quality? Because obviously this was kind of pre-social media. There wasn't as much of a spotlight on players probably in the 21st century as there is now. Do you think that he doesn't quite make it into that? Because people might not talk about him in the same bracket as your Ronaldos and your Messis, but you look at what he achieved.
Well, talking about stats that season, right? So we talk about Messi and Ronaldo's numbers. They've kind of broken everything. Yeah. But that season, 2005, 2006, 29 games in the Liga, 17 goals, 18 assists. Right, that's pretty ridiculous in terms of the impact on a side. You're talking Kevin De Bruyne level creative numbers, and then a goal scoring record that'd be good for a centre forward. But in the Champions League, bring it back to that season where they won it, 12 games played, 7 goals, 5 assists. That's a level where he's dominating European football, dominant.
But he played the game in exactly the same way he would do, like if he was playing down the park
or on the beach. I think that a lot of his skills were kind of beach-orientated skills, like the scoops, the flicks, the tricks.
You jog a Benitos.
Yeah.
Bang.
Don't know what that means, but it sounds good.
Yeah, I've noted that since 06.
I also think that we need to give him a lot of credit. We'll know as doing research for this podcast that you have to watch a lot of montages. And I don't think without Ronaldinho you wouldn't get sort of a dubstep background with a highly edited sort of transition.
Ronaldinho's impacted YouTube as well as he's impacted European football.
There's people that have got 1 million subscribers, and that's all thanks to Ronaldinho.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Will, if we didn't have videos like that, it'd have been a tragedy.
Yeah, exactly.
It really would have been. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to focus a little bit more on some of his highlights, videos, stats, that kind of thing. And also, I want to start with a little bit of a stat slash something that I've unearthed when doing a bit of research about Ronaldinho. Okay, so sometimes you get these child prodigies who end up videos go on YouTube when they're really young.
Kerrisons, the seal dribbler.
Yeah, do you remember?
See, bang.
You've earned your fee there. Well done.
Thank you.
He was 13. He played a match and he scored 23 goals in a 23-0 win.
Do you know exactly? And I bet the goalkeeper from the opposition team won man of the match. Oh, he tried hard. He did. He couldn't.
Yeah.
It always happens.
It's not England.
Time.
It's Brazil. They favour the goals, not the passion.
It always happens.
He got his hand to 19 of them.
And then the goalie gets clubman and everyone's clapped. But he's a goalie, so just get him out. And that's always what happens.
No, but obviously that caught media attention, and straight away he was kind of. It seemed like he was destined for big things. There was a lot of talk of Ronaldinho. I remember, he was always like one of the players that you'd sign like the early Championship managers when you play them. And he was like PSG. He had that kind of time at PSG, didn't he? And I mean, obviously, what happened with that, Dave?
Apparently, it was to do with the transfer fee, and Man United didn't want to spend a little bit more on the fee. They reneged on the fee. They wanted more money, PSG, and then he decided he wanted to go to Barcelona. That's one of the biggest misses that I'd say in my life. Like having Ronaldinho at United, it would have just fit like an absolute glove. And considering Cristiano Ronaldo would have been there as well, Ronaldo on one wing, Ronaldinho on the other wing, that is what you call fun, explosive football.
Where do you play gigs there?
Playing wherever, mate. Doesn't matter.
Left back?
Yeah, why not?
Fair
Central midfield. Who cares?
Dictating the pace.
Doesn't matter. You've got two of the most fun footballers on the planet on the pitch.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't necessarily correlate to success. You know, I can't imagine Roy Keane being the most welcoming to Ronaldinho, sort of maybe casually strolling up to training, having a kick about.
But that's as Roy Keane probably moved away from the club in a sense that was more the next generation. The Ruud van Nistelrooy years with Ronaldo. Obviously, Ronaldo forced Ruud van Nistelrooy out because he had to become the main part of the team. Having those two guys togetgether would have been similar to Messi and Ronaldinho at Barca.
Would Ronaldo have flourished in the way he did?
I think he would have flourished even more.
He always does this. He's brought it back to United.
Yeah.
Ronaldinho hasn't even played for United.
Red agenda.
But what I'm saying is, that's a player I wish United had signed.
Yeah.
Him and Kaka are two players that I look at and think I'd have loved to see them in Man United shirt because they would have suited the club as much as they suited Real Madrid, Barcelona, AC Milan, all the big giants of European football. Ronaldinho's got to go down with one of the signings of the 21st century because of the price for a Ballon d'Or winner. Incredible.
Yeah.
I also wish that they'd have signed for Birmingham City just so I'd get in there.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if he'd have got in ahead of Oliver Tebley, but
I don't think he would have liked to play at St Andrews, to be quite honest.
Stan Lazaridis. Obviously, he started out as this kind of wonder kid, 23 goals in a game, unbelievable. Any tales from your own childhood football careers that you want to share?
Well, I was thinking when I was
big target man, were you, Will? I imagine.
Yeah, sort of classic. Wanted to be a target man. Scored a hat-trick against Parkside Middle School. Absolutely dominated those slugs that day. But then sort of worked my way back centre mid because I used to do cross country.
Yeah.
Centre back, right back,
Engine.
and then I had to do a season in goal.
Left back in the changing rooms at the end.
Yeah, nice one, Dave. But what I did have to do at the end of what I was thinking was the only pair of boots that I've bought because of a footballer was Ronaldinho, and I know, look at the state of me, there's no chance I'd be able to recreate that.
Leggy the Stepovers.
It was the Night Legends. Massively.
This is interesting, actually, Will, because another thing that I think we should focus on a little bit is if we're talking, iconic players, and it's not just about technical ability, not about numbers, but also I think what Ronaldinho did to an extent was really kind of elevate that marketability for players as well. If you look at like the Nike adverts, like around that World Cup 2002, that kind of thing, when you had all the those adverts were running, and he was, the airport one was at like 2005ish or whatever, and that was really the start of, other than Gareth Southgate and Stuart Pearce being a pizza advert, it was like, the time when footballers were starring in their own adverts and boots were becoming a really big thing. So do you think Ronaldinho was definitely can be considered to be iconic more so because of that?
I think it was that time where it was just sort of cool to see all these, like that advert, the one by the airport, and the one in the cage as well. I don't know if you're part of that one, but it was just like it was cool that these players interact and like you'd see them all together. And that one when it's like the point of view, isn't it? And it's like Ronaldinho in the feet, and
I think it's kind of big up street football, and going back to where a lot of these players come from. A lot of these players at that point weren't academy kids for the entire time. They were playing football on the street, and Ronaldinho plays like he is. Playing on the street is very much like a little kid that's beating all the big kids, and he consistently did that. The amount of good players that he beat 1v1 was absolutely sensational. We talk about the Real Madrid game, one of the best games of his career, the way that he goes around Salgado for the first goal and then destroys Ramos for the second goal. Sergio Ramos, who is regarded as one of the best centre-backs of all time, shows the quality and the level that Ronaldinho played at throughout his entire career, and it comes from that street football thing. And I think that culturally was quite an interesting sort of move for the advertisers to kind of jump on that as a position of, this is what this is how we want to promote our product, is with these flary players, these fun players.
But we spoke about Roy Keane almost dragging like United's, like sort of screaming and kicking to get to his level, whether you were good or not. Could that almost be like levelled at, you'll know more about this than me, Dave, at Ronaldinho, but in a different way?
Very much in a different way. More dragging them because he was that impactful in the final third. He was a playmaker. As a playmaker that's playing out wide, obviously, as playmakers move away from playing central midfield, it's an interesting sort of point there that Barca team, they weren't at the same level in terms of ball possession as the later teams under Guardiola. But Frank Rijkaard had them playing an exciting style that was reasonably direct, that would get the ball to Ronaldinho nice and quick, and he'd then go and be explosive. And it was interesting, it was moving away from that point of contact of that central midfield area. As we see the game develop, the pressing numbers jump up and X, Y and Z formations, tactics improve over the 2000s. Ronaldinho was that first point where playmaking moved from that position out wide to a player that you just get the ball to. You have players around like Deco. We remember Deco. Deco was quite a good worker. Remember about how he, at Porto, maybe a little bit more creative. But as the seasons went on with Barca, was kind of like a little bit of a, doing Ronaldinho's work for him. And I think that worked quite nicely for him because he enjoyed attacking. What's the point in getting him to defend?
One sort of niggling doubt would be, I feel like football now is a lot of, like you mentioned, like systems, tactics, philosophies. Would he'd be sick, he'd be unreal, but would he be at the level that we remember him if he played in this era now?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if he would.
If you played him wide right in Guardiola's City team, let's say, where the job of the winger is to stay wide, to take people on, is to create a 1v1 by the system.
Create a role for him almost.
Well, just
You'd have
put
to,
him in.
you? You'd have to.
Put him in, like, he's someone that excels 1v1. Guardiola's systems dictate to build that in the final third.
But yeah,
like Sterling up against Trent recently, like that same vibe of getting players 1v1.
Yeah.
Ronaldinho spent a lot of his career dealing with 3 to 4 players, and whatever era he plays, Ronaldinho, I think he is successful because of his technical ability, skills, and tricks. That works wherever.
Well, that's good because I was worried.
But yeah, don't be worried. It's going to be all right.
Okay,
You
thank
still got your Ronaldinho boots?
I don't know if I have. I think I got the what were the Nike Legends? I think.
Was that the one where he puts the boots on and he hits the crossbar?
Yeah.
I was reading earlier about that apparently, and again, don't quote me on this, but I think that was one of the first videos on YouTube to get 1 million views.
Really?
Yeah, like it was ridiculous. And again, at the time, everyone's going, "Oh, it's fake." Like they edited it and stuff like that. But that's the thing with Ronaldinho. He had this kind of
could be true.
Yeah, this air of like just anything could happen at any time.
Yeah, well, I think
any time
probably is true. You know what I mean? Like Ronaldinho's got the ability to do that.
How many takes though? Do you reckon?
One take one. I reckon 100%. Yeah, he just goes in, smacks it up. See you later, guys. Thanks for coming down. Just gonna go for a bit of a party, drink a few cans, party until the morning. Then I'm gonna go to train.
I think Ronaldinho drinks cans.
How do you know? I've met him.
Well, you showed us a little video earlier on of some of his best bits. Just want to describe what kind of things we saw.
Just skills, more skills, and a few more skills.
Not many goals in there though. Listen, I'm not saying he didn't score goals, Dave, but you know what I mean. We were watching it and we were waiting for a goal to come, and Dave, we're just waiting for a goal coming in, and I saw a lot of stepovers, a lot of back heels, which are nice.
Yeah,
but again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, Dave. So
look, mate,
I'm purely, don't blame me.
Bicycle kick against Espanyol.
There was a lot of flashy play though, wasn't there?
I think he was at the time in La Liga as well when it was, like the way many of us think of like Serie A in the 90s, like La Liga in that early 2000s to 2010 was just like
cash, money, all the good players, and it was it was after the Galacticos. So the Galacticos were knocking around Real Madrid, which winning a lot of things. David Beckham had come in. You got Zizou, you got Roberto Carlos. Like it very much was a Real Madrid centric league, and I think Ronaldinho going to Barca started that revolution where we saw Barca become the dominant force in La Liga, and I think it's quite a nice example of in the 90s Serie A was at its pomp because of the cash. That moved to Spain. They got all the good talent, they got all the good players, and we saw such a dominant league. From a perspective, they'd always compete internationally. They'd compete in Europe, and I think that was a nice thing for Barcelona to pick up this guy that was so fresh and so vibrant, and kind of impact their side and impact their team for so long.
Yeah,
I mean, is there any? Obviously, we established all the strengths and the positives. Is there anything that you would any other sort of criticisms that you could kind of level at him? I mean, obviously, you are clearly a big fan of him. Is there been a question about his temperament or his off the pitch kind of exploits?
Absolutely. There is reports that he likes a party, that he likes going to trips back to Brazil when he was playing in Europe to go for a party, then come back. Why did Guardiola get rid of him at Barcelona? Because he saw him as a bad influence on Lionel Messi. That's a big thing. He'd turn up to training sometimes, not in the greatest condition. And you can see his decline. His decline was fast decline.
Do you know? It surprised me looking at some of the stats. He wasn't even that old, really, when he kind of his career started to kind of go down.
He's one of those players that I wish I'd watched in his prime. I saw him in 2009. I went to watch Man United play AC Milan in Milan at the San Siro, and he was playing for them. He was unbelievable for the first 15 minutes. It was incredible. He was making a mockery of the United defence. They were sitting deep. They were trying to play on the break. He was just running around, causing chaos. I'm thinking this is going to be 3, 4, 5-0 with Ronaldinho. But then he just fell out of the game. Like that, just mentality switch. United pretty much man-marked Pirlo out the game. They played on the break. They won 3-2. But that 15 minutes, I'll always cherish that as seeing Ronaldinho like flying. It's kind of like facing you up, stopping you, and then exploding. And we kind of see a lot of players do that now. Like Neymar does it, Hazard does it, but they all sometimes do it in a way where it slows the play down. Whereas Ronaldinho would do it and then he'd quick the tempo and the tempo would flip. And I think that's something that some players now, when they slow it down, the defence gets packed and then they start walking, and that's the wrong method. Whereas Ronaldinho was very much slow you down to speed you back up, like Messi does. Messi slows you down to speed you back up. His acceleration is his best asset, similar to Ronaldinho. But it was nice just to see Ronaldinho there. Ronaldo was there as well. Like the Brazilian Ronaldo was at AC Milan. It was like they brought the gang back together and it didn't quite work.
Yeah, like the doomed comeback tour that didn't quite take off. The thing is that when you look at someone like Ronaldinho, do you think the fact that he could have probably carried on for another?
If he'd looked after himself, definitely.
That's what
but
it comes to, isn't it? Like we spoke about Zlatan.
Yeah, I mean,
another
look at
podcast.
that. I mean, in terms of their age, it's probably not a great deal of difference in terms of age.
Well, not at all. I think Ronaldinho's 40.
Yeah,
Zlatan is 39, so a year difference. I think with Ronaldinho, I think he wanted to go home. He wanted to go back to Brazil. He obviously lifestyle, and that's a big thing. Like he did everything in European football.
Motivation as
He
well.
won
I
the
imagine.
World Cup with Brazil.
Yeah.
Like what more did he need? He didn't need to accomplish anything else, and I think that is part of his legacy, that he was there for the top and he did it he was dominant for 2-3 years and then he went. And with Messi and Ronaldo, our minds get warped with dominance because they've been dominant for so long that we forget that previously to that, you're having like a player that's 3 years at the top and then they drop off a bit.
Yeah,
and it's not
true,
a bad thing for that to happen.
Or
because
someone new comes in.
Yeah, or someone new comes in. Their peak is small, and that's the nature of football. You've got a career of like 20 years. You'll peak for like 3 years.
You know what it is? You got to think FIFA covers. How long has Messi or Ronaldo been on the FIFA cover? But back in the day, you were getting Mendieta on one, Ronaldinho on one, Rooney on one, and since 2009?
It's weird because, like you say, you don't really get it anymore where you get players just having their moment. And I think that we probably could all agree that at some point it was unanimous that Ronaldinho was the best player in the world.
Yeah.
Or
Ballon d'Or.
Nowadays, for the past probably more 10 years potentially, it's been between two players, hasn't it? Really.
Well, since Kaka and Ronaldinho, it has been that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like from a romantic perspective, it's kind of nicer when they do have this fall. Like it's like that hero arc that you like. You're coming up, you become amazing, and then it drops off.
I think his was just literally motivation, though, isn't it? Like the motivation he'd done everything. The motivation then to be like, I want to go home, and then the motivation to be like, I don't really want.
I think the Pep
like
thing hurt him.
You
I think the Pep thing might have hurt him. That he was at the top level, was playing for the club that he loved. And then obviously Pep comes in. They've got to change this. We've got to change the mentality. Barcelona were in a bit of a mess towards the end of Ronaldinho's career. It was sloppy. And why did Pep want to get rid of him, Eto'o? Because he thought they were bad influences on the rest of the team. And I think that's something that maybe that hurt him to a point of he was like, I've literally done everything in football, but I'm not allowed to stay here. You can feel for him in a sense.
Yeah, but you can't imagine him having the same sort of like conditioning as Zlatan, and that's why we've seen him stay on, just because it's just his persona, isn't it? He's
It's
done
weird,
it all.
though, isn't it? Because if we're talking, players being iconic, longevity, it does come into it, but sometimes it is quite nice to have a player that's like a whirlwind and they're just around for two or 3 years.
I think the peak was higher.
That's their mystique in it, in a way.
Yeah, the peak's higher, right? So you got Messi and Ronaldo that are pretty much like on the same level. One will jump over the other for a bit, each year on year. But the peak of Ronaldinho he was the best player in the world by a country mile.
But then he just went like...
Yeah, and I think that I like that kind of idea of a superhuman, and then they just drop off. It's kind of life.
It just makes it mad that we're living in the world of Ronaldo and Messi, really.
Yeah.
Blessed.
That's more of the freak kind of...
Yeah. We
going
won't
on,
have this
really.
again in our era, I don't think.
You don't. It depends with conditioning, with how players are
True, yeah.
pushed forward. We don't know. We don't know that this isn't the start of a new wave of footballer that they can just consistently stay at this really high level.
Like recovery and everything.
Taking care of yourself.
But it's a bit of a shame because you might not see players like Ronaldinho again.
Yeah, well,
Like,
we won't hide them. We won't hold them in the same regard.
No.
Like, going back to like an Eden Hazard, would he have been, if he played in the 90s, would he been classed as a world beater? Neymar, same thing. If Neymar wasn't in the same generation, and we got another world beater on our hands.
Also, do you think we're playing a bit to our nostalgia because we're all sort of similar age. You know, showing a little bit behind the curtain here, guys. But
I'm still 21, Will.
Good one. Check the cameras. But you remember things like more fondly, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, and he was the best player in the world. But because we were for me, he's the sort of first player that I linked. Like I was saying to you, Dave, off camera, like the ball, like that, the one with the circles. Most balls are circle. Like the kits and everything. He was sort of that sort of forefront of that merchandising, wasn't it?
Yeah, completely. And for me, that was a time when probably high school, World Cup 2002, and I was consuming football probably in a different way to how I do now, in a way, and it just seemed a lot. Like you say, to go back to what you said, fun at the start, and I don't know if there is an element of that playing into it, whereas.
See, now I think that's true, because now we'd be worrying about, like, David, what role is he going to? Is he a Ramdoiter or a Mazzala? And now I'm thinking, just give him the ball and let him play.
But that's what I do think.
Don't put him in a box.
Yeah. The weird thing is that now, like you say, if someone definitely in the Premier League, it's come along and had that kind of Ronaldinho mentality where it was a little bit, laid back in terms of the way he is on the pitch, but also you could probably argue with his lifestyle choices at times that. Clubs might not even stand for it. No matter. You could have said, all right, it wouldn't happen.
It's talent. It's just talent. I think with Ronaldinho, the talent is just there.
But
like,
I don't.
What about his pressing numbers?
But I'm not denying.
You could get Ronaldinho to press if you had a word with him. You know what I mean?
You just wonder if there'd be pressure on from the higher ups at clubs to go. Hang on a minute, come on, he's out till 2 a.m.
But that's why Ronaldinho survived, because he didn't care.
No, I
know. Looked like he played football, like he did not care what you're thinking. I'm going to go on the pitch and just have a laugh.
But that's why the 21st century football is quite nice, because you had characters that were able to do that, I suppose. Which brings us on to talk about iconic moments as well. If you had to pick one iconic moment, Will, what would you pick?
Can I have an honourable mention?
Yeah.
Because I always judge it on when we're doing the research. Is like, what's the first thing that comes into your head? And for this one, it was I just couldn't get his free kick at Fratton Park out of my head. Just because I think it's like a weird set of circumstances sat here in 2021 that Ronaldinho for AC Milan played against Portsmouth in the UEFA Cup, and it was a competitive game.
Portsmouth were pretty decent in that game as well.
They? Like, and I fancy Portsmouth tonight against
Glenn Johnson was unbelievable, wasn't
he? So that was the first thing that came to my head. But for me, it would be 2002, sat in my middle school hall in the morning. Big screen on. Oh, they put the projector on. Oh, big things happening here. And,
exactly the same setup at my school.
Same. I think that's the really interesting side of it. Like, we all remember it the same way.
But it does link into what you were saying, Will, about this nostalgia, especially with people of a certain kind of age.
But he was a knob that day, and I still remember it fondly. So, I mean, that says more about the man that never.
Do you know what? Part of me thinks as well, the reason why that is so ingrained into my mind is because it killed the vibe at the school.
Yeah,
we were all,
and you could be proper silly. Like
lessons are going out the window. Like, you could do anything you want. It was a lawless society at the time in that sports hall.
It's crazy.
It was great. It was amazing.
What crazy jungle school you went to here? Like,
no, but
there's rules, boy.
No, but do you know what I mean? It was like everyone was.
You could be silly for the morning.
Yeah, it was World Cup euphoria. It was absolutely brilliant. And as soon as that goal went in, we're like, cheers, mate.
Even on that day, I interviewed Rio Ferdinand, but just specifically about that game, and he said at the end of it, obviously Ronaldinho had done that free kick. And they both got pulled for piss tests at the end of it. And he was like, sat in the chair. He was like, "Did you mean it?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, I wanted to punch him."
Yeah. I mean, listen. I know which you did he mean it? Are you going? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think in hindsight, yes.
I think so.
These are things that they could have come to him pre-game and said, "Look at Seaman comes off his line from these free kicks."
And as soon as you said that is very plausible.
Yeah, he had previous for it, didn't he? As well,
exactly.
To be fair. But yeah, I mean that's weird that there's so many moments we could have picked. I suppose, Dave. What have you gone for?
I think the Bernabeu one's a big one. The standing ovation of Bernabeu, that's big, with the hatred between the two sides. The pig's head that was delivered by the Barca fans to Figo. Like, there's a lot of beef between Real Madrid and Barcelona.
How is he trying to get that into the stadium?
I think that's I mean, there's definitely been worse. I see someone got a pig's head once into the stadium. I once had to take 2 Ribena lids off my Ribenas because they thought I was going to throw it.
Because you're a dangerous man, William.
But what am I going to do with that?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Kick it out of someone.
Guy's got a pig's head in.
So yeah, you're going for the.
No, I'm not going for that. That was one. Again, Will got an honourable mention, so I thought I'd throw in an honourable mention as well. I'm going for the goal against Barcelona, semi-final Champions League, the toe poke, the 0 backlift. John Terry in bits.
Nice.
Great goal.
Is that the little swivel with the?
Yeah, where it's like the little
what's
fun.
the actual term for that?
It's just a toe punt, isn't it? Really, like the. Because he doesn't really touch the ball. It's just kind of like
Clarks.
It's quite
just absolutely smacked, isn't he?
It's quite good that
School shoe shuffle.
That Ronaldinho's iconic moment is a toe punt. It's brilliant. I love that. But yeah, I think I was going to go with what you said, Will, for my iconic moment. I think that the World Cup 2002. I mean, not just specifically that goal. I think the whole tournament.
Yeah, the Brazil team. We forget how good it was.
Yeah,
because back then insane. As well, like World Cups were like, you know, when you mentioned Ronaldinho was like sort of making a noise for himself, but I don't think many of us would have actually seen him play, but there was definitely a noise.
Yeah.
So when World Cups came, it was like you'd actually see him play for the first time.
Yeah, and the
kind of a little bit more exciting.
Do you think that happened in Brazil? Like people were like, I've heard of the Matty Holland. I wonder.
Rio
I
Ferdinand.
heard he's a box-to-box midfielder.
They've got a promising Danny Mills is playing. Yeah, you know.
No is the answer to that. I think they were like, we've got a lot of sauce over in Brazil. We don't need any of this rubbish.
But no, I think that whole tournament for me is really kind of, you know, solidifies the idea of fun. And I think that you could probably argue that Brazil have had so many great players even since then. But for me, you know, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, you know, Roberto Carlos, that really encapsulated that it was almost like it was just like a footballing culture almost as well. I don't know if that's because I'd watched too many Nike adverts.
But
it comes in a lot of like
there was a PlayStation game called, remember that, The Mission? Do you remember that? That was released. Yeah, they did it. I think it was PS1, and it was based on the adverts.
Really?
Yeah. So it was amazing because you had like, you know, Ronaldinho. I think Ronaldo was on it. All the players that were on the Nike adverts at the time, and then Louis van Gaal was also on it, and he set you the mission. It was brilliant, and you had to like knock out the bad guys by volleying the ball at them and stuff. It was incredible.
Oh, wow.
So I mean,
they didn't make a second game.
No, they didn't make. I think I bought the only copy, but you know, no. But I think for me, 2002, that World Cup, just the whole kind of vibe. It just felt. It was the first time, like you said, Will, the kind of the curtain had been pulled back a little bit, and we saw these players, and they really kind of. You felt that they really lived that style of football in every game. They just approached it in their own way. It was almost like tactics sort of went out the window a little bit.
Yeah,
really.
There was quite a well-drilled Brazil team. We'll forget that there was some real hard workers in that team as well to balance it out. A back three as well. But I think that the thing with the attacking side, like you look at the wing backs, like Brazilian wing backs attack. Yeah. And I think that's like another side of it that you look at it as a child and you're like, everyone's attacking here. This is amazing. Yeah. And I think we look at it from that perspective that it is like a beautiful game. We've got so many attackers chucked into the team. Even the right back and left back are flying forward. I think that kind of gives you that level of, wow, this is a special team. This is a special moment for me as an individual. Yeah.
And he very much was like almost like the embodiment of that, I think. Yeah. Which is another reason why we can probably consider him to be an iconic player.
Maybe it's like because we have like certain names like Smith over here, but when I was younger, it was the fact it was like Ronaldo was sick in '98. And then it's like Ronaldinho, and I just couldn't get. I know I'm a simple-minded man, but I just couldn't get out of my head.
Yeah, I know.
Little Ronaldo.
Yeah, but it's just I was just like, wow, that's mad that they're both playing in the same team. And
yeah, well, you're thinking it'd be like, you know, Shearer and like Ronaldinho.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's that kind of vibe.
And I'm 30 now, and I still can't get out of my head.
It still blows your mind.
Yeah.
There's lots to be said for that, Will. Right, listen, we're going to move on from our iconic moments, and we're going to do what we do every episode of 21st Century Football. We're going to basically rank Ronaldinho, 3 separate categories individually, each category out of 10. We'll add them all up, and we should have a score out of 90 for our player, okay? And we can add that score to our leaderboard. So the three categories are, first of all, would we want to go for a pint with Ronaldinho? We've heard a lot about his partying, his off-the-field exploits.
Whoa! Stop what you're doing there. If you want to listen to the full podcast, click the link in the description where you'll hear us all talking about what we really think of some of these 21st century footballers. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, drop a subscribe, and get in the comments down below. What would you rate this footballer out of 90? Would you take him for a pint? Probably.